All right, so we got the Miata going here, 2000, what's almost 20 years old. So yesterday, a couple of things I did. One of them was that I was looking at my records, and the battery on this thing was 5 years old. I mean, I couldn't believe it, right? Never go 5 years on a battery. So I replaced that. My wife got a new phone, so yesterday we spent about $1,000. That battery alone, tax and all in, right, was like $180. I mean, it's insanity. With a 3-year warranty, but I never let these things go like this. And my boat needs a battery too, right? I always replace them before they go bad. The second thing is that the P0705 code that I cut a video on it. It's a neutral safety switch problem. The engine light is coming on and off. And I think that's a function of an adjustment. I think I'm going down the right path with it. It resolved it for a while, but then it came back, and then it would go away. So I did an adjustment, and I wrote in the comments. I pinned it to the top of that video if you're interested in that. I changed the oil yesterday. One of the things that I want to do today is that we had a real cold snap come through in beginning of November. Right, it's real odd for us to have it get that cold. It's in the 20s. And my wife's leaving in her car, and then she parks in the parking lot, comes out, and she's struggling to get it unlocked. I probably could squirt some WD in there or whatever, but, there's a lot more to it than just the lock itself. So I just suspect that, it's probably some old grease or no grease, and I'm going to pull the door panel off and see where that gets me. I also want to give maybe a little lube to the tracks that the power windows ride up and down on. They're always a little draggy, especially going up. Down's no problem, so let's pull these doors apart, or at least one of them, and check it out. I've had them apart before. I don't really remember the details, to be honest with you, but I'll just figure it out. Yeah, so the battery's in the trunk, and check it out, right? It's this little dinky thing. Fits down in the passenger side compartment. Got a little hole carved out for it, and it's a pretty easy affair, but expensive. So virtually every connector in here is bone dry. I mean, there is just nothing on this stuff. There's no lubrication at all. I mean, it's just dry. Look down in here. It's like some sliders for the window, right? And it's well, it's wet, but it looks old, really old. And I can't quite see, the sliders are right here. Yeah, it's awesome. The closed up side is facing me, so I'm not sure I really want to get into that today. I just really want to lube them up a little bit. Here's one here. Oh, these little plastic things. I hate these things. I mean, they're always really delicate, and you just can't go down to the store and buy those. Yeah, so that's why I wanted to take this apart. Nearly impossible to film, though. So the key is actually in the lock, right? So if I come back, if I reach around and grab here, there's just a million little parts and stuff that are all working in concert with one another. And I see that these are dry. I am really reluctant to mess with those unless I absolutely had to, right, to take and remove these. I mean, they just look so old. I just don't dare mess with that, or else I'm going to break one, and then I'm going to be into this thing for the next couple of days. But yeah, there's just a lot of hardware holding this whole mess together. And I think I'm going to just use some spray lube, like some silicone. I think would be probably the best way to do this. Yeah. All right, so change of plan. I think what I want to do is use the spray-on lithium grease. It has a lot more body to it, right? So the only thing I don't like about spray cans, you can't control it, right? Stuff goes everywhere. So see, you get a better, just a little tiny squirt, you get a whole bunch of grease, and it generally makes a mess. Whereas if you use the silicone, it's more of a a clear coat. I'm sure both would work well, but this has a lot more body to it, and this has no body at all. Yeah, so I think what I'll do is I'll use the lithium, and then anything I can reach with my finger, I've got lithium grease, right? So I'll just kind of dab that along. Just sometimes the stuff, man, it goes everywhere, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing in my case. I can't get a temperature rating out of this. I don't really know. I know it's basically low temp. Like, you wouldn't use this in a bearing or anything, but the silicone is actually rated, and it's down to minus 40 up to, I don't know, 400 degrees. So that's very heat tolerant and cold tolerant. This is not stated. And I have had this stuff get old and dry and crackly on me too, but I still think it's the way to go. I'm going to try it, right? I'm going to use the lithium. All right, so I guess that's probably adequate, right? These window regulators, right? They tend to die a lot. On my big Chevy truck, I've done that at least 6 to 7 times. It was a 4-door truck. I did all doors, and the driver's was constantly wearing out. So I don't know how many times I did that thing, like 3 times during its life. Let's call it 7 or 8 times I've done the window regulators on that truck, and on this one, I've never done them. That would be helpful to get rid of all this crap in here for, so you can do some maintenance on it and get back in there in that lock. I'm not going to do that today. If this thing fails, then we'll take the door apart. I've got 2 videos on the window regulators on the Chevy in my channel, so if you have some questions about that, but this is pretty much the same. I mean, I just don't see anything a whole lot different than on the Chevy. But I'm going to button this back up. I did take some grease and get my finger in there, and I put it in the track, right, and it seems to have improved it. We'll do a final test after I get everything, sort of buttoned up, and then we'll take a look at it. So hopefully that lock isn't, seizing up on her in the cold weather. You have no way to tell. It's a beautiful day today. I mean, it's just glorious out here. No wind, nothing, just beautiful. So we will see. What is not evident in the video is exactly how does this door connect to the actual metallic side of the door. And you've got all these push pins, right? And those work, right? They come out and they're easy enough to deal with. But for some reason, they took this one single one and they made this kind of an apparatus in it, right? Like it's keyholed. That just makes no sense. And you can see where I've damaged it. I've had this door apart before, right? And had no idea how that worked. You just don't know, right? Until you get into it. So its mating part is over here. And it's just sticking out, and it's just a pain in the neck. I don't know why anybody would do that. Just give me another one of those push pins, and we're ready to rock and roll here. But, that's the way they think or do. I don't really understand it, but, yeah. So they're all the way around it, and the push pins are, they work. They're nice. Why do you got to make this so difficult? It's, over-engineered. Don't do that. It's just a good time to clean up the panel, so I'm going to spend some time getting these shoe scuffs and whatnot off this and get this as pristine as I can get it. Boy, these things just don't like to move. They're just like embedded or something like that. Interesting here. Look at this. Look at over the time from having like a ring on, like my wife getting in and out. Right? It just dinged this all up like that, and just a fascinating reaction, I guess you might say. You can see it's got some dirt up here, a little hole. Somehow this little hole got puncture, but I'll give it a good cleanup before I stick it back on. Well, like I said, those scuffs don't want to come off. I've tried several different things here. This is stuff from the car wash. I had Dawn soap, which is just a total go-to as far as cleaners are concerned. What's actually working is the McGuire's car wax, so that's working really good. There was some deep gouges right here, or scuffs, I should say, right? So I'm just going to keep on going. I think it's going to be fine, and I think it's reasonably safe given, given the material that we're working with here. I didn't want to use anything really too harsh on it. So I just got finished with the weather stripping. It looks a lot easier than it actually is. Stuff is just impossible to work with. And I would recommend, given the idea that I've done this so many times, right, is that you get this stuff stuck on there, right? If you run into a spot that just doesn't have any goop, try a little silicone. I've done that before. It will stop sticking after, you pull it apart, 3 or 4 times like I did on the driver's side of that Chevy. But, it never goes back together the way it came apart, right? Like, where's that stuff, right? Where's that? Where's this? So, a little, there's a spot, right? I mean, it keeps the weather out, it keeps the noise down, and as far as I'm concerned, it absolutely needs to seal up, right? To work properly. So, yeah, it's in, and we'll start thinking about putting the actual panel on. Don't forget to get your wire fed through here, and of course, this guy comes through the visqueen as well. The weatherproofing, whatever you want to call it, but it's all important, and it is just hard to deal with. It looks like a train wreck, but who cares, right? As long as it seals, that's what it really needs to do. Without taking the window regulator apart and all that stuff, I can't get into it. I did grease it as best I think I knew.
Yeah, I think that's all I needed. Sweet.
Well, it works. See, the wax is shown up here, right? The wax I used to clean these scuffs, that needs to be like reconstituted, and and scrubbed again. Well, what are you going to do, right? It got the black, in most cases it got the black off, but that was the consequence of that move, because this is sort of like a faux leather, you know, texture, and it got down inside that stuff, and it's like, yeah, what are you going to do? Put a little contact cement down in here and let it dry, and on there's a little piece of carpet, it's a little piece of trim, hides the screw. Remember the first time I took this apart, I was like, how the hell do you get this thing apart? And I ended up peeling up that piece of carpet against my better judgment and found this screw down here. So I went real easy on the glue, right? You know I'm going to be taking this apart again. So I don't really want to, I don't want to fight with it. Contact cement is awesome. All right, cool. Let's test her out. I'm going to do it once without the car running, and the second test with the car running. Alright, got some grease on the window and whatnot, a little bit of, I don't know, something there. But it works, and it feels pretty smooth. I'm not getting any resistance at all. So I like that, right? And hopefully when it gets cold, we won't have any more problems. So, done. So I appreciate you watching today, right? I've featured this car in a number of videos on my channel. I invite you to take a look at that. You know, give me a thumbs up and a subscribe if you wouldn't mind. That really helps me out a lot. And you know, we'll keep them coming on this Miata. I'm not sure how long we're going to keep this thing, but if it was for sale, it would read like this. One owner, driven by a grandmother, back and forth to the grocery store. Low mileage. It's 20 years old. It's got 89,000 miles on it. Do the math. It's a very low mileage car. Handles like it's on rails. Runs perfectly, you know, so forth. And it's really been a joy to own this car. It just does not take a lot of work to keep it running, or money. So thanks for watching, and hope you enjoyed the show. So a while ago I stumbled on this set and picked this up because I do a lot of interior trim work on older cars, right? And if you've not seen anything like this, I would really recommend that you pick something up like this. This is an 11-piece set. I think it cost me about 50 bucks, which for me was an absolute bargain. I use these things all the time when I do the work that was just featured in the video here, right? And you can get smaller sets, right? You can get them like with 4 or, you know, 6 or something like that. But this particular set happens to be the 11-piece. And these things are just amazing, right? It just doesn't tear up anything that you need to pry on as far as interior is concerned. I mean, I can't say enough, right? And you get this awesome case. I have no affiliation with these people whatsoever. I paid my money just like everybody else did, and I just want to call this thing to your attention. I just love this thing. I use it all the time. And I've got some other loose pieces that I purchased over the years, but this thing is just amazing. So check it out. Window regulators, let's call it 7 or 8 times I've done